A week of e-premieres continues tonight with The Return of the Gas
You're traveling through another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and of sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of the imagination. There's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the narrow mind.
An all-new season of The Gas News, premiering commercial-free tonight, when at 10 on E!
All right, it is Tuesday night, and it is the 29th of November. Welcome once again to The Narrow Mind. My name is Gene Cook, and we're going to be talking about wife swap. What is wife swap? Well, I'll explain that to you in just a moment. You may have heard some weird sounds just a moment ago, and that's because my computer has a mind of its own, and it began to, when I booted up the AOL Instant Messenger, it began to play some movie clip or something, and I was in the other room. I could hear the sound, but I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. We are going to be having open phones tonight, even though we have a topic to discuss. I would like to keep, when I say open phones, I would like to keep the subject centered around the ABC reality show Wife Swap that aired last night. It aired at 8 p.m. It was a 1-hour show. And if you don't know what wife swap is, I guess the name kind of says it all. What happens is two different families decide that they will trade wives for a period of time. And so the one wife goes to the other house, and that wife comes to the first house. In this case, we had two families, Reggie Finley, who is known as the Infidel Guy, and his family. And if you don't know who Reggie Finley is, he has a website, infidelguy.com. He's a very prominent atheist. I say prominent. He's a prominent internet atheist. There is a difference. So he's got this website where he promotes his hate for God. And the other family that they swapped wives with, was a Christian pastor. And his name was Pastor Stone Rock, which I found kind of interesting. And his wife, the wife of a pastor.
A week of e-premieres continues tonight with The Return of the Gastineau Girl.
Well, I like the background music on that. Why does it do that now? It never used to do that. I guess we got more technology. That was your computer, right, Doug? Yeah. Anyways, we had some hallelujah music there in the background. So the Christian wife, she comes and stays at Reggie's house and manages, the things that the wife of the home manages, such as, overseeing the affairs of taking the kids to daycare and all that stuff. And it was really amazing. I mean, I don't know how many of you saw it. I'm told it's available out there on the internet somewhere. You can probably find it. But I was just blown away. So Reggie's wife goes and stays at the pastor's house. And so you probably couldn't ask for a better contrast of family life. And usually, when we see these kinds of shows where they have a Christian and his family, they usually portray them as total idiots. I think that that must be good for the ratings or something like that. So, but that wasn't the case this time. They didn't necessarily portray them as, silly people. I think they did a pretty good portrayal of the Christian family. It's the portrayal of Reggie's family that I'm a little bit concerned about, and that's what I really want to talk about tonight. Our phone number is 1-800-466-1873. That is toll-free, 1-800-466-1873. Or you can call on the local line at 619-793-5180. That is 619-793-5180. If the phone lines are busy, you can probably get through on that one for sure. If long distance isn't an issue for you, you could actually also save us some money there. And we're going to be talking about Wife Swap. Aired on ABC last night. I'd kind of like to get your thoughts, find out what you think about that, if you saw it. If you didn't see it, I'd prefer that you just listen. But if you did see it, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to get your thoughts. I've been reading the various threads that have been going on the Infidel Guy's website. And what's interesting is apparently a lot of, I don't know how many, I can't really say a lot, but at least some subscribers to his website have canceled their subscription as a result of this. In fact, right now, and this is something that I think just came about as of today, coincidence, right now, Reggie is hosting a program on his own website, and let me just pull it up here. I think it's called Inside the Finley Family or something like that. Let me take a look here. Tonight's show, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You've seen the TV part. Inside the Finleys now see the reality. So right now, he is, I think what he's doing is damage control, because things did just not come out looking good for him last night. In fact, I tell you what, let's do something. This is another Unchained Radio first. Let's eavesdrop here for a second and see what they're talking about. I'm loading up his stream here. See if it works. I can hear his voice.
Okay, let's move this over here.
Sounds like he's having some technical problems. Well, we'll come back to our friend Reggie in a few minutes and see if he's got things going.
Okay, some people don't understand why the forums are down. I gotta tell this guy to put something a little more explicit in the forums. I don't know what to do though. Maybe just have a plain page.
The forums are down. You want to know why the forums are down? Because they're getting so much traffic over there. I think they crashed the server. When I was on it earlier, I couldn't even navigate through it. It was working so slowly. I figured that was what was going on.
You got a room in here, honey? I can barely fit in here by myself.
I guess this is the reality right now.
You should be able to squeeze a small chair in here, because my chair is a little big.
Okay.
Oh, I know. I can take out my wheelchair. We can put in this. Okay, we can take in 2 folding chairs. We can bring in 2 folding chairs right here. Let me.
All right, I tell you what, we're going to put that on hold for now because it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot going on there. And we're going to take our first caller. Let's go to Dustin. Oops, I just hit my microphone as I was reaching for the phone board. Let's go to Dustin calling from North Carolina. Dustin, welcome to the Narrow Mind. Okay. Do we have... Hey, Doug, do we have line 3 or 4 on mute? We need to take those off mute. Dustin, you with me?
Yes, sir. How you doing tonight?
Very good.
Great.
So, have you been listening?
Yes.
Yeah, so did you watch the program last night?
Yeah, my wife and I watched the whole thing.
Great. What did you think about it?
I liked it. I really did. I got to see a couple of different things. Number one, I appreciate the way that ABC and Wife Swap represented Christianity. I thought, just as you said in the opening, that they accurately represented the way the Christian family is, and they did a good job of that. They didn't try to hold back. I also like to see how much Reggie is just mowed over with his work, and spending 80 hours in front of the computer a week. Mm-hmm. And I got to see him, at least the best that I could tell. I got to see him for who he really is. And what I really enjoyed about the show was getting to see how what's the woman's name that came in, Miss Stoneridge?
Her name was
Bible Gal, whoever she is.
Yeah, she's got her own website now, BibleGal.org. I'm thinking her name was Shelley, but or Debbie or something. Let me look it up real quick.
Anyways, I like the way when she came in, she really told Reggie, she said, "Look, you need to spend some time with your kids, man."
Yeah, Kelly's her name. Kelly.
Yeah, just get out from being in front of a computer screen 8 hours a week and just spend some time with your kids. And it was really good to see, at least based upon the TV show, it's good to see Reggie doing that, throwing the football with his son. I really enjoyed that. And, it was good to see, hey, this guy's human. Mm-hmm. what's really kind of surprised me is when I went to check out the forum over at Infidel Guy. I think it's amazing that a lot of his supporters are just ragging him, for his behavior on that show. But it's amazing to me how people like that will turn on you, in the world of unbelief. So.
Well, there's also, to his credit, there's also it looks like a remnant that is very loyal to him. I don't know how much of you read, but there's like 14 pages now on that forum thread.
I couldn't navigate it real well because I just think there's so many people trying to get on it.
Yeah.
And there's so many posts. I only got to read a few posts. It actually locked up on me.
I read the whole thing, including the profanity. And the profanity was directed at him from atheists.
Yeah.
They're not too happy with what they saw last night. They think a lot of them think that it's a misrepresentation of what atheism is about.
Yeah.
Which I can understand.
Sure.
A lot of them are upset because of his emotional breakdown when for those of you that didn't see it, at one point, Kelly Stonerock, the pastor's wife, began to verbally chew him out.
Yeah, she let him have it in his own kitchen.
And he broke down and cried like a baby.
Yeah. I
thought for a moment there that he was actually acting or something, that he was playing around. I couldn't make heads or tails of what was going on. He actually, kicked the teddy bear across the kitchen and then put his head down and started crying. And he said that, she was being mean to him. And I don't know. I can't remember. I was just in a state of shock. I can't remember exactly what he said, but something to the effect like, this is really, you're making me feel like a failure. You're making me feel like I'm not a good dad. All these types of things. So
yeah.
A lot of the atheist supporters, I suppose, are upset about that.
Yeah.
Because
I watched it pretty carefully, and I'm surprised they didn't edit that out. I really am. I'm surprised they did not edit that section out because he was really crying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the guy.
You know what?
Because she confronted him with, she said, "Look, you need to spend time with Dorian. You need to spend time with your son." And he got pretty upset about that, kicked the teddy bear, and there you have it.
Mm. Yeah, one of my favorite parts is when Reggie was asked to, not just asked, but told, during the course of the show, for those that have never, in fact, that's the first time I've ever watched that show, but apparently at some point in the program, the wife gets to make some demands as far as some changes that she'd like to see take place.
Right.
And one of the demands that she put on Reggie was that he wear this Jesus Saves hat. Now,
he put it right on, too, like a trooper.
He put it right on, like a good sport. Got to give him credit for that.
That's right.
But I was watching him there with that hat on, sitting there talking to his son. He's sitting on his son's bed, really enjoying himself.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, this guy would make a great Christian.
Yep.
In fact, somebody was able to get a snapshot of that picture, a close-up of him with that hat on, and they used it. They used it as their avatar there on one of the posts that they made on his thread.
Oh man!
So
he's never going to hear the end of that. But
yeah, he's not going to hear the end of that.
Getting back to him with his son, to be frank with you, I really enjoyed seeing him. Play with his son, play with his family, go outdoors with him, and after Kelly Stonerock had come and then left. It was just great to see that. It seemed like there was somewhat of a change in the family. Now, I don't know how far that's carried over into now, but, it was just nice to see that. You often wonder with the media, how much of this is a facade, how much of it's real, but it was nice to see that. And it was nice, too, to see his wife, Amber, as much as she hates God, it was nice to see her kind of show some of her, show some love to the Stone Rocks. I guess that was their little niece that lived with them, that little girl.
Oh, that wasn't their daughter?
No, I don't think so. Okay. I think that was their niece.
I'm glad you clarified that because I was a little bit confused when she was talking about her aunt. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. While I've got you on the line here, let's take another listen over and see what Reggie's talking about.
Sure.
because I think he's realizing the implications of this whole production here.
If I can get this damn chair out of here.
Oh, hope he doesn't use any profanity. It sounds like he's. It's 9:15 on the East Coast, right, Dustin?
Yeah.
Okay, his program is supposed to start at 9.
Yeah, kids' toys are all over the place.
Sounds like he's got some major technical difficulties going on.
Well, either that or he's redefining reality radio. Maybe he just put mics all over the house.
It was funny. I was talking on the phone to Jake, and he was cracking up because they tried to make it look like the kids don't. I don't interact with the kids at all during the show, and it's like they're always in here. That's part of the problem. It's like they are always in here. I don't have an office. This is a kid's playroom.
You know the kids are supposed to stay in the dungeon where we put them. Oh, you want me to set these down first?
Let's move some of the stuff out of the way here.
Ow.
I'd like to hear some of the substance of what this guy's going to talk about.
Be careful, Lester.
I'm really curious.
Lest I burn my lips. Lest you burn your bloody lips.
Are they listening to this?
Yeah, they're listening to us right now.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
I said y'all.
Look, Obermeister says, Reggie cried again today. Honey, how often do I cry?
Like, only once a week. Well, maybe twice a week. No, I'm just kidding.
You gotta get a folding chair.
Why?
What are you gonna say? Oh, well.
Oh, I think so.
It's just too big.
It sounds like they're still setting up for their broadcast or whatever it is they're going to do. But one of the things that I read, Dustin, on the ABC website is that there were some comments there that were posted by Reggie's wife, Amber. And apparently they asked her, what kind of difference has this made? And there's actually been some positive improvements in their family life.
Yeah. Well, that's really what I was kind of getting at earlier, and that's one of the blessings. It's amazing that she got to spend some time living, in a Christian home for a week, and obviously doesn't want to know the Lord, doesn't care to know God, and even as one of the punishments that she had, every time the word God was mentioned or anything in relationship to God, you had, whoever said it was fined $1, and then the money went toward having a kids party.
Right.
But even with that, just the benefits that she got and the things that she learned, and from the carryover from the rules that were set down by Kelly Stonerock in the Finley's home, it really helped them. It seemed to really help them a lot, at least based upon what I could see. I can't say a whole lot because I don't know what happened once the cameras were taken away. But in the same sense, I'm hoping that even though these people don't know the Lord, they don't care to. I pray that maybe this will be some kind of seed that's planted. I've often wondered, would God use this as a means to plant a seed in Reggie's son or something else like that? Who knows? Well,
Reggie had to have thought that this was really going to be a way to promote his website and to promote everything that he's doing.
Right.
And, from my perspective, that's not what happened at all.
Yeah.
In fact, if that was his expectation, then certainly his expectation backfired.
Right. The exact opposite happened, it seems.
Yeah, we could, as Christians, we could really use this as an opportunity to slam Reggie right now.
Yeah.
And, but I don't want to do that. So for those of you that are calling in, I just want to make it clear that I'm more interested tonight in hearing some kind of objective feedback. What is it that you walked away from that show thinking, without really lodging any attacks on Reggie personally? Dustin, I want to thank you for your call. It's always good to talk to you.
Thank you, sir.
Take care, brother. All right, let's before we take our next call, and Derek, you are up next, but before we take our next call, let's see if they've begun over there at the Infidel Guy. Doesn't sound like it.
I think my plastic knife just melted.
Boy, this is definitely reality TV or reality radio.
No, just kidding. Wow, Hillbilly Atheist just admitted he cries sometimes.
I cry too sometimes. Reggie would probably be surprised to hear this,
I
but
think you do. Yep. Camera's not on, so we can do all kind of freaky things.
I cry sometimes when I'm preaching. But I think I cry for different reasons than Reggie was crying.
Get your hand off of that.
Okay. We won't go there. All right, let's go ahead and take our next call. Yeah, that's reality radio, right? Let's go to Derek calling from Dallas. Derek, welcome to the Narrow Mind.
Hi, Gene.
How you doing, Derek?
I'm good. I'm a little disappointed.
How so?
Well, I just think that from what I saw of the show, it just didn't really... I don't think it was pretty exhaustive. And I think that anyone who would be that close-minded and myopic to think that it was and to base any kind of conclusion on what they saw without having some sort of gray open for, you know, some unknowns, I think is really somebody I don't want to know, you know. I think that when guys like Dustin Seeger say that it portrays the real Christian family, I think that's just ridiculous. I mean, I know tons of Christians that have problems, and I never knew that, you know, being a Christian meant that you didn't have problems or you weren't going to fall under sin. And I don't care how squeaky clean that family looked. It still doesn't mean that that's an exhaustive aspect of their daily grind. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
Derek, where did you get the impression that we thought that this was a family that was sinless?
I didn't say sinless, but Dustin just said, I just heard him say, he said this was the real Christian family. And I want to know, you know, what is the real Christian family?
Well, the real Christian family is a family that's saved by the grace of God. Yeah, they're sinners, and yeah, they screw up, and yeah, they kick teddy bears across the room. That's the real Christian family. Dustin's not saying that they were by any means, you know, a perfect family or a model family. In fact, I
thought he made an emphasis as if they were some sort of special example of what the Christian family or the Christian household appears.
Well, I don't know what he meant, but
I hope he didn't. And if I'm wrong in assuming that that's what his intentions were saying that for, then I apologize in advance. But when he said that, it really kind of turned me in a weird way. I was like, well, gosh, you know. I keep on seeing these like comparisons between the two families, and I'm like, who in their right mind would sit there and go, yeah, that's actually what it's like in each home. And, you know, I did an interview in Dallas here for a sports drink one time that was controversial years ago, and they took probably a half hour worth of footage. They played 5 minutes, and they made me look like an advocate for this thing, and I looked like I was doing an infomercial for it. So I know how much stuff gets left on the cutting room floor, and I think that you probably realize that as well. So I don't think anyone should walk away from watching this show with any kind of like absolute, oh, I know this is a matter-of-fact way that these people live. I just think that's horse crap.
Well, there are some things that we do know matter-of-fact, and we know them not just because we saw them, but they've further been admitted on, if you just go back and read the thread there on the show itself.
Yeah.
Some of the things that were admitted is that, yes, they do put the children in daycare for a lot of hours during the week. And, yes, Mom does come home after she drops the kids off at daycare. And although she helps Reggie for a few hours a day, she admitted that, you know, she gets on the computer and plays video games. She has a problem with that.
Well, that's okay.
Well,
I mean,
it's
so
not
what?
Okay to me.
What's the big deal? I mean,
Well,
what
why
you
would
want
you
us
pay
to take a
somebody
video
else?
camera to your life and see and put the microscope over your family and see exactly what you do every second of the day?
Well, first of all,
I mean, come on.
I wouldn't subject myself to that. Okay.
I mean, we got to watch you ride on your motorcycle. I mean, what's the deal? I mean, we have downtime, don't we?
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with playing video games, but why would you pay somebody else to watch your kids so that you can play video games, especially when you're struggling
I'm sure
financially?
There's probably other things involved with that. I mean, you know, there might be other value with her having that freedom, and there might be some peace of mind with her. I mean, imagine if you had your kids all day long and then there was no break. I mean, come on, who can dig in and really find out why she does what she does? You know, it is what it is, but I'm just, my whole thing is not really what went on in the show necessarily. It was just anyone who makes this kind of blanket sweep, you know, statement that, oh, well, yeah, this is how atheism is. These are how these people act. This is why they hate God. They hate this. I don't know. I just think that's really, really shoddy data to base any kind of real substantial position on, you know.
Yeah.
I think you feel the same way. I mean, come on. I mean, what if we took all these videotapes of your life, and we only played, a half hour. I mean, wouldn't you be a little ticked off if it really didn't represent what you thought was the reality?
Well, I'm not sure what part didn't represent the reality. I guess that's why we're talking about this.
It would only be natural, though.
Does Reggie work 80 hours a week?
Because you have a lot of stuff that wasn't being played that was filmed.
Well, that's true. But Reggie did admit that he works 80 hours a week.
So do I. I have my own tanning salon in Dallas, in a great neighborhood in Dallas. I work my butt off. What?
And a nice tan, I might add.
Well, not so much right now, but
my point
is that you work hard too. I mean, we all work. We all got to work.
Listen, I don't work 8 hours a week. You know what? Well,
some people do. So what?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I guess this is the part that kind of concerns me. It's what he's doing for 80 hours a week. He's spending 80 hours a week fighting against God while his family is struggling financially.
Right.
I mean, he's talking about today that, he's out, his cars are breaking down and things like that. And I feel for the guy.
Right.
That's the part that concerns me. Now, I don't know if that's just because I'm a Christian and so it makes it even worse, but I don't know.
Yeah, you do. You have some bias in there that works, and I think you have some empathy that works naturally. I mean, I would feel the same way, if the tables were turned. I mean, I see some Christian guys here in Dallas that, are just doing things according to the Lord's will, and wow, I mean, they really play it close to the edge, in my opinion, and I feel for them. But hey, that's what they do. I mean, people walk into situations one step at a time, and this is where he is, and this whole experience will probably condition him in a way that he might take a step back and look at what's going on in his life, and maybe there might be some small things that are changed and some improvements are made. I think that's great, but I just think that basing any opinion on this just from this small segment is pretty half-assed, if you ask me.
Well, I'd like to see him continue to wear the. I'd like to see him continue to wear
I know what you're going to say.
The Jesus Saves hat. I think it looked good on him.
Well, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to let you go. Always a pleasure.
Okay. Good talking to you, Derek.
Talk to you later, Brad.
Right. Okay, Dustin is calling back, and he would like to make a clarification, I'm certain. Dustin, do you want to make a clarification on that statement that you made?
Yes, I would. I was not in any way, shape, or form trying to imply that a Christian home, especially the Stone Rock family, is sinless or perfect or anything like that. What I was getting at is the fact that the family obviously sees it as important to inculcate their children with a Christian worldview. Hence, their homeschool material is going to be arranged around a Christian worldview. Father prays with the children before they go to bed. They pray before they eat. There's a lot of joy in the family. And I wasn't saying that those kinds of things can't be in a secular family. I was just saying that those are things that we should expect in a Christian family.
Yeah,
doesn't mean that they don't lose their temper or get upset or anything like that. So I'm just amazed that my friend Derek would listen to this and assume that I would pour that kind of a meaning into that.
Yeah.
But I just want to call and clarify that.
Okay. Appreciate that, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go back and see if they've begun talking about the real Finley family so that we can, we want to get our facts straight here.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you got two of them. All right.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I'm making up stuff.
Maybe this is just them hanging out, having a good time.
It's been a long time since I've done this, so when you position this mic.
What you do is you hold the base.
They definitely sound happy.
You didn't get that, did you?
Yes. Watch out, though. It's hot.
Okay.
I was talking about the hot chocolate. Hey, that's rude.
That is rude, Reggie.
Why are they talking about Gene Cook and our show's about to come on?
I know. Forget Gene Cook. This is the Finley's Live. Okay, everyone, I have to say... Is Amber meeting you guys?
Amber will tell you right now she does not.
Okay. We've got more callers. Once again, our phone number is 1-800-466-1873. Our number is 1-800-466-1873. You can get through on the local line at 619-793-5180. Why are they talking about Gene Cook? Let's go to our next call. Shane calling from Texas. Shane, welcome to the Narrow Mind.
Hey, Pastor Gene, what's going on, bro?
Not much. How are you?
I'm great. Man, I couldn't disagree more with Derek, and I wish he was still on the line, because I'd like to ask him if he would say the same thing for the Christian family. And also I'd like to ask him if there's ever been another show where a Christian has, I guess what I'm saying is if he feels like there was a bent towards trying to make the Christian family look better than they really are, I'd like an example of where that has ever happened in the past.
Mm.
Because usually, like you said at the beginning of the show, the world loves to make the Christian look like the unreligious and the bumbling sinner, rather than, what you and Dustin were saying. That yes, we still have struggles, but the model of life for the Christian is to live according to God's word is the best we can, which means that's in the fabric of everything we do, family and everything else. So I'd just like to know what other, in the past, has there ever been an example where, it was misrepresented on the Christian side? Because I've sure never heard an atheist say, man, that wasn't fair. They really made that Christian family look like somebody they weren't,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I can't. Derek just called back. I can't conference you guys together, or else I would.
Okay.
But so you'll have to listen to his response off the air.
Okay.
But I think it's a fair question. I mean, if we're saying that we can't learn anything from watching, an hour or maybe 30 minutes in this case devoted to a documentary on somebody's family because of editing and just soundbite television, then I mean, how much would it take to really? Does it take 3 hours, 4 hours? How much time does it take? And does this mean that anything that we see on TV that's an hour or less obviously can't be trusted?
Hey, guys.
Yeah.
All right. No. I'm totally with Shane on that. I hope I didn't sound like, I was being biased just towards the Christians.
Okay.
I'm totally cool with that. I realize that it can go both ways on that.
Right. Okay, good. Fair enough.
Number 12.
Thanks, Derek.
You're welcome.
All right. You know what we should do is we should maybe we should call up the Infidel Guy and ask him some questions. Should we give that a try? Let me see here. Let me see if he's got his phone number on the website. You are listening to The Narrow Mind. My name is Gene Cook. We're talking about Wife Swap, which was a program that was on last night on ABC television, and it was a show that portrayed two families, the family of the Infidel Guy and the family of a Christian, the Stone Rock family. All right, let's give this a try. Let's see if we can... I've never actually dialed somebody like this before, so this should be interesting. Let's see what happens here. I wonder if he's taking any calls tonight. Guess he doesn't want to be bothered. That's okay. We're talking about the program Wife Swap that took place last night. It aired on ABC. Maybe you caught it, maybe you didn't. If you didn't, I'm told it's available somewhere online. You can do a search for it and find it. But let me just continue with some of my observations about the program. If you'd like to talk about it, if you did see it, give us a call at 1-800-466-1873. That is toll-free, 800-466-1873, or 619 if you'd like to call in the local 619 number, 619-793-5180. As I mentioned earlier, for those of you that just tuned in, the show consisted of these two families trading wives for, period of a week or something like that. Was it a week, Doug? I don't know how long it was. A week, something like that. But, they're not, when we say that they're wife swapping, they're not obviously sharing the bed and things like that. Well, I mentioned earlier that at one point, the wife gets to stand up and she gets to impose some new rules upon the household. And so the Christian wife, Kelly Stonerock, gets up and she basically says, okay, your son, Dorian, is doing too many chores. And so he's going to be relieved from some of his responsibilities. And then she says that she's going to basically take over his Infidel Guy webcast, and she's going to be the Bible gal. And then she said, you're going to wear this Jesus Saves hat. Okay? In the other household, at the Christian household, Pastor Stonerock is confronted with Amber Finley, and Amber says, okay, I'm sick of hearing you talking about God. I'm sick of hearing you pray. And so every time you mention God, either in just casual conversation or in a prayer, it's going to cost you $10, and you're going to have to put $10 in this box, and at the end of the time, we'll throw a party for the kids. And so another rule that she imposed was that the kids needed to get a more balanced education. They were being homeschooled by the parents, and so she said, we're going to have somebody come in here and teach them about evolution. And so this guy comes in and he starts teaching them about evolution. It's kind of interesting. He basically challenges the young girl, and he says to her, do you believe that a man can stay alive in the belly of a fish for 3 days? And she looked at him like, well, and the brother, I thought, astutely, spoke up and said, well, if it's a big fish. I got a better question for the tutor. How can a man come out of the grave after 3 days? Forget about the fish. Jesus was dead for 3 days. He comes out of the grave and is seen by witnesses. Now, the other things that Amber said that she wanted the pastor to do was she wanted him to wear a T-shirt that said God, and then it had one of those red circles with a line going through it, meaning, like the Ghostbuster thing, no God. No God. And so she pulls out the T-shirt, shows it to him, and she says, here, put this on. Well, guess what? He says, I can't do it. Apparently, Amber's never read the story of Daniel when they commanded him to pray and bow down to false gods. Apparently, Pastor Stonerock has. And so he says, I can't do it. It's a violation of my conscience. I would be lying if I put that on, as if I was endorsing its message. Now, I noticed that on the atheist threads, they are upset about two things. They're upset about a lot of things, but they're upset about two things concerning this situation. Number one, they're upset because the pastor would not wear the shirt, but Reggie did. Reggie wore the hat, Jesus Saves, and the pastor says, I'm not going to wear the shirt. You have to understand, people, when you do one of these reality television shows, they'll never force you to violate your conscience. I mean, what if, some sexual demand was placed on one of the families? Are they supposed to do it just because they've agreed to follow the new rules? No, of course not. They are not required to violate their conscience. Now, apparently, wearing a Jesus Saves hat doesn't violate Reggie's conscience. And if I didn't, I think I mentioned earlier, I thought it looked good on him. In fact, I'd like to see him wear one more often. But the pastor said no. So a lot of the atheists were upset about that. Now, in addition to that, the atheists were upset because the Finleys were described as a family that was against God or anti-God. And they're saying that atheism is not anti-God. If you go back and you read some of the posts, the threads that are on Reggie's website, you'll see over and over again, atheism is not about anti-God. Well, then why is she pulling out a T-shirt and saying, you got to wear this anti-God T-shirt? Yes, it is about anti-God. So those that are criticizing the ABC for, framing it as an anti-God family, they have nobody to blame but the Finleys for that. They're the ones that pulled out the anti-God T-shirt. All right, let's take our next call. Let's go to March calling from, is it March? Merch calling from Canada.
I just wanted to mention, Gene, that Reginald said he'll be taking calls tonight, so maybe we should call him at the top of the hour or so.
Okay.
It'd be interesting to hear you on his show.
Did he change the time of his broadcast or something?
I don't know. It's weird. I'm listening to both streams, yours and his, at the same time on different players, and it seems like every time you tune in, you hear strange things, because when I tune into Reginald's show, he's actually talking about wife swap. So
that is weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it just seems to be, you seem to be tuning in at the wrong time, so I don't know what that's about.
All right, well, hold on a second. Let's tune in again and see what we get.
Not even 24 hours, and already she's in my office about to chastise me and tell me how self-centered I am.
Oh, this is the part where he breaks down in Christ.
I went off. And that's the scene you see where I go off and I say, how dare you? That had nothing to do with the context and the way they put it. Because that was an earlier scene. That was the earliest, that was the first time.
What's that?
I'll listen
okay.
off the phone.
Okay,
Bye.
Great. This is getting good now.
The first conflict we had, and this when she first got there. And I said, how dare you say that I am self-centered? And she said, it just seems like the family all revolves around you. See, but she's getting all this from looking at a picture and also what she read in the what they provided her in the, what's it called, that thing?
The manual.
Yeah, the manual. So that's where she already had this, so she already had this idea in her head about who I was. And so she felt comfortable approaching me because she thought she had it pegged. And I said, how dare you? You don't know me, and you are completely wrong. And then we got into a big argument. She was like, is this manual incorrect? I said, yes, it is. So it was just wild. And I told her, I said, I thought Christians were supposed to espouse humility. And here you are accusing me and blaming me of things. But you guys didn't see that. That was edited. It was gone. So, oh well. And I'm not trying to say they purposely did this. I'm just giving you guys scenes that happened.
Didn't make it in.
It's a scene that just didn't make it in. But it helps for you now know the context of why all that happened.
Well, when I met the family, of course, Taylor immediately gravitated toward me. She was so sweet. I miss Taylor. She's just the sweetest thing. Mm-hmm. All the other kids were nice, too. They really were. But Taylor was my little buddy. She always helped me, and she talked to me and everything. So I really, really liked Taylor.
This would probably be a good place for me to mention that, I would commend Amber. I would commend Amber for just the relationship that she made with this young girl in the other house. I thought that was great. I thought it was really, it was commendable. It was something that was, it was a breath of fresh air. And because you got the impression that the Finleys never play with their kids, they never take them outside. And so on the other hand, you see, that Amber is bonding with this young woman. So I thought it was great. Let's take our next call. Let's go to Sterling calling from North Carolina. Sterling, welcome to the Narrow Mind.
Thank you, Gene. Good evening to you. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Well, first I'll make a statement, then ask the question. I was talking to a friend of mine who announced this program to me, and I was a little disconcerted with a pastor who would enter into an agreement with especially ABC. I'm not an ABC fan or actually a television fan at all, but in order to enter into an agreement like this, there had to be so many unknowns. He was gambling. And I originally sarcastically said, well, I guess this guy thinks this is an opportunity to witness. Well, I was ashamed of that after I saw that program last night. Stone Rock did a wonderful job, and his wife was a champion of that show. Mm-hmm. But my question is, what do you think motivated Reggie to have a breakdown, an emotional breakdown?
That's a great question. That is a great question. I don't know the answer to that question, but if I decide to call him back a little bit later, that maybe I'll ask him that. I have some ideas, but there's no way for me really to know. I mean, I suppose it might be that, I'm looking at the guy, and I'm going to try to be totally fair to Reggie here. I'm looking at him. He is working 80 hours a week on his computer trying to make this home business work. I mean, let's be straightforward. That's what it is. It's a home business. Yeah. On top of that, he's barely getting by. Apparently, he's not in the best financial position, and so he's trying to make ends meet. I'm sure he's got the pressure and the weight trying to support a family with 3 kids, keep the cars running, and keep everybody happy. So he's under a lot of pressure. Now, on top of that, he gets this woman coming into his house that begins to criticize him and point out what I think were flaws. And I think Reggie would even admit this to some degree. I think he has flaws in his relationship, in the way that he's conducting himself. One of the things that she did was she said, okay, you're only going to work from 9 to 5:30. So that was one of the restrictions she put on him. And so he expressed that this was hurting his business. And so you couple all the pressures of being the breadwinner for the family, you couple that with having, no purpose in life, because atheism doesn't allow for any purpose in life. You couple that with somebody shining a light on the weaknesses in your family unit. You couple that with a very bold Christian woman who is criticizing you and verbally, pretty much exposing you. And it was just too much for him. It was just too much for him. I think he just broke down.
Right. Well, I've got a little bit of hope, I think, and I've been in a situation much like that before. And it was a precursor to my salvation, part of the spiritual awakening that the Holy Spirit worked in my life. And Reggie may be showing some signs of hope, and I have to hold that hope out for him.
Yeah, absolutely. This might be his Damascus Road experience. He thought he was going to, he thought he was going to shine, and he was going to drive a lot of traffic to his website. Business was going to be good. I'm sure it would lead to other opportunities for him in media. And the whole plan backfired in him to such a degree that he's losing subscribers now from his website. And the atheists, he does have a loyal following. A lot of the atheists are very supportive, but a lot of them are just, ripping him to shreds verbally. They're like turning on him. And one thing you wouldn't see that type of thing in a Christian environment. You might have a few people that dissent and basically criticize you, and but if a Christian was a complete failure, I don't think that you'd see. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, the Christian holds out hope, and I think that's one thing, unfortunately, that Reggie doesn't have. He just, and his family demonstrated that just from subjective things like the look on the children's faces, with the exception of the young baby. Reggie and his wife himself, both, they don't have the joy that a Christian life produces and a Christian worldview produces. So I hold out hope for him and would pray for him. And I know he's going to listen to this broadcast. And I'll say, Reggie, because of that show last night, I'm going to pray even more diligently for you. So,
amen. We should.
I appreciate your ministry and look forward to an opportunity to introduce you to Ralph from North Carolina during the next remedial theology opportunity. God bless you.
I'm looking forward to meeting Ralph. God bless you, brother.
All right, bye.
All right. You're listening to The Narrow Mind. My name is Gene Cook. Our phone number is toll-free, 1-800-466-1873. We're talking about the 1-hour special that aired last night on ABC called Wife Swap, talking about the Infidel Guy, none other than Reggie Finley, who has an internet-based website where he promotes his dislike for Christianity. And not just Christianity. He doesn't like God in any form, but I'd have to say the majority of his stuff is about his dislike for Christianity. And he is having a broadcast right now as we speak. So we've been kind of ducking in and out of his stream. So let's take a quick listen here and see what's going on.
From what we've seen, I mean, we could tell she was a pretty sweet girl. Obviously, she would have her moments, being the only girl in the house, though.
Yeah, I mean, they really did. I mean, I know things.
You know what? This may have been buffered, so let me get a fresh connection here and make sure I'm at the right place so we can hear it live.
The kids are undisciplined, by the way, right? According to Kelly's website, something about her path to God or whatever. She has God-centered principles, and that's why her kids are disciplined and all this stuff.
Okay, but you know what is so funny? I'll get on that later. Okay. I'll get on that later.
In fact, you might want to start taking some notes. Here's a piece of paper just in case, because we don't want to forget. Because I know you might have some. What you can do is microphone, by the way. Turn your volume down. You can move this.
You're listening to Reggie Finley and his wife Amber Finley talking about the program. Now they're broadcasting live right now.
Bend the neck.
And we're kind of eavesdropping.
Hold the shaft and bend the neck down.
It's falling.
You got to put the head of it to your mouth.
Okay. Pretty much, that's the. I suppose that's the highlight of atheism. Highlight of atheism is, I suppose, the highlight of atheism is having sex. Because about 3 times now that we've tuned in, they've been making jokes and innuendos about having sex. I'm wondering, as I watch the program, what do they live for? You know, they wake up in the morning, he goes to his computer, spends the whole day there, goes to bed, wakes up the next day and does it again. For what? That's all there is? Man, if that's all there was to life, if that's all there is to life, we should just all kill ourselves right now. I'm serious. If that's all there is, if all I have to look forward to is waking up, grabbing my coffee, heading to my computer, answering my email, checking my website, updating my website, and, posting in some forums. If that's all there is, then life sucks. Life really sucks. But you know what? That's not all there is. If that's all there is, I wouldn't even... Paul says, look, if all there is to life is to eat, drink, and be merry, then as Christians, we're the most miserable of all men. He says this in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 because he says, look, if there's no resurrection, if there's no afterlife, if there is no heaven, then there's no point. And we should just be like the rest of them. Eat, drink, be merry. Maybe adopt Derek Sansone's version of hedonism. Whatever makes you happy, whatever brings you the most pleasure and fulfillment in life, go for it. Go for all the gusto because you only go around once. That's what we should be doing. But we know, as Christians, those of you that are listening that are Christians, we know that there's a lot more to life than the 9-to-5 grind. We know that our joy in this life, our happiness, our satisfaction is not derived from our circumstances, from the material things that we have. Paul says, I know what it's like to be poor, and I know what it's like to have a lot. And in both situations, the one thing I've learned is that without contentment, life is meaningless. Paul says, I've learned how to be content in both situations. So that our contentment as Christians is not based on our circumstances. Our contentment is based on our relationship with Jesus Christ. He is the real joy giver. He's the one that gives life meaning, gives life worth, gives us purpose. But you know what? Better than all that, He pardons our sins. He forgives us. He forgives us for our transgressions. He forgives us for our lying, for our cheating, for our self-centeredness, for our lust, for our materialism, for our coveting. He forgives us for all those things and saves us by His grace. I mean, if you don't know what it's like to have a clear conscience, you're missing out. Those of us that have children, some of us have children that misbehave. Some of us have children that are really well behaved. Some of us have some of each. And I'll tell you what, when I look down at my children, when they are happy and when they are obeying their parents, I see the joy that comes from having a clear conscience towards your Father. On the other hand, when they're in sin, when they're screwing up, when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I see the grief and the frustration and the utter hopelessness that brings to the human mindset. I hope that our friend Reggie, and I do call him our friend, you know what, I don't have a problem being friends with people that don't believe like I do. You know, maybe I did when I was a brand new Christian, but the Lord has taught me some things since then. In fact, there's some unbelievers that I like hanging out better than I do with Christians. Just because sometimes Christians just get hung up on stupid stuff. And Jesus didn't seem to have a problem hanging out with sinners. In fact, one of the titles that they gave him, one of the names that they called him was the friend of sinners. So I don't have any problem calling Reggie Finley my friend. I don't know if he refers to me as his friend, but I certainly hope that I'm going to go beyond hope. I'm going to not only hope, but I'm going to pray that this is the beginning of the end of the Infidel Guy. That's right. I pray that God would so use this ABC program, Wife Swap, that God would use it in such a way that every cash-giving atheist would want to distance themselves from Reggie. And you know why I pray that? Because I believe as long as everything's going fine in Reggie's life, it's going to be difficult for him to break the pattern. He's got a home business promoting atheism. What better way for God to break down the infidel guy than to cause him to act in such a way on national television that atheists now are upset with him? That they're not just upset with him, they're calling him names. You know, he's talking about getting threats, and people are saying mean things. Well, I don't think that's coming from the Christians. There might be some Christians out there, but I bet you the stuff that I've read on the internet, on the atheist websites, and I'm not just talking about his website, I'm talking about other websites, they are upset with him. And many of them don't want to have anything to do with him. So, Reggie, my friend, don't throw away that Jesus Saves hat yet. Okay? You may have begun your Damascus Road experience unknowingly, but that remains to be seen. Well, that brings us up to the top of the hour, and I just want to make a few final announcements. We will be having the Atheist Hour this Sunday night, and the Atheist Hour this Sunday night will include my guest, Dr. Zachary Moore, who says that he wants to talk about atheism. Not atheism. He wants to talk about evolution. I'm sure we'll be talking about atheism because it's the Atheist Hour, but he wants to talk about evolution. Apparently, he's been doing some more study in the field of evolution, and he would like to discuss it. So I want to invite you to come back and join us on Sunday night at 6 p.m. That is Pacific Standard Time. You've been listening to The Narrow Mind. My name is Gene Cook.